Good morning and welcome. It's a pleasure to be together on this beautiful snowy morning. I'm Heather Schneider, your service leader. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm joined by Andrew Wills on AV and Carly Whitney for our kids program. Welcome members, friends, and visitors to UU of East Aurora. We are a community which believes our differences make us better, a place where all are welcomed regardless of belief systems, ethnicities, race, gender, sexual orientation, or economic standing. You are in a safe space. Now, before we begin our service, please stand and body your spirit to greet one another and welcome them to this morning's celebration of life. Even if you've already chatted before settling in, please take a moment to say a quick hello. I begin this service by acknowledging that our nation was largely built on the ancestral land of Native nations and the labor of enslaved peoples. May we persevere to achieve a clear understanding of our shared past and utilize these lessons learned for good and for progress. Please join me in saying the chalice lighting words printed in the order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning and celebration of the life we share together. Okay, and we're fortunate to have John Snodgrass with us today. He's going to start us out with the opening words.
Well, good morning. So, an elderly man was sitting on a park bench, just watching the world go by. And there on the bench across the path, a little boy sat down, pulled out a candy bar, full-size candy bar, unwrapped it, swallowed the whole thing, didn't even chew. The old man was amazed, and he was even more amazed when the little boy pulled out a second full-size candy bar and proceeded with a third and a fourth. And when the little boy pulled out a fifth candy bar, the old man said, "Excuse me there, but I can't help but wonder if all of that chocolate could really be good for you." The boy said, "You know, old man, my grandfather lived to be 107. The old man said, "Oh, and did he eat a lot of candy?" Little boy said, "My grandfather lived to be 107 by minding his own business." You know what? Now I'm wondering, because these intergenerational stories, and there were not as many children in the room when I started the story as there were, and then as I saw the ending get closer, I thought, it's not necessarily a very respectful thing that little boy said, but it's okay. That's just meant to be a silly story. All right. So I hope if people come up and say nice things to you, we can all say polite things back. Welcome to this place which we make holy by our presence. These doors are open to all. We welcome diverse ideas of the source of life, diverse needs, diverse abilities. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, where the human is celebrated, where compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together, we make it a holy place.
We are reminded that UUEA cannot do anything without members and friends showing up and supporting each other. We offer our sincere gratitude to those who participate in all the ways that make this beloved community vibrant. We give thanks to those who attend events, volunteer their time, share their talents, or who can be generous financially. If you are inclined to provide an offering after the service, there's a plate on the bookshelf, or you may do so online at uuea.org. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit because I think I forgot the announcements, and I know there were a couple announcements. So our first announcement is that there is going to be a coffee hour after the service, and thank you to Carly. She brought many donuts, so we're very fortunate. So I hope everybody's hungry. And I know Sue brought some fruit salad, so that's a wonderful thing too. And then Christina, did you want to mention about your service that you're gonna offer? Okay. If you want to come up.
Well, I can't generate the same excitement as the donuts did. Okay, that's wonderful. I hope there's some vegan donuts too. No? Well, maybe some vegan snacks, I hope. Oh, okay.
The vegan donut place is actually closed forever.
It is? Oh, that's sad.
The only one.
The vegan donut place closed forever. I'm sad about that. I'm sad about that. Well, my name is Reverend Christina Church, and I'm here to offer a starting point group. Today is our first session, and it is for longtime members and for new members and for all of us really to learn more about Unitarian Universalism, learn more about each other's journeys, and get to know each other and connect. So even if you haven't signed up for it, like I said, today is the first session, so you're welcome to join us. And we'd love to have you. I know about 8 folks are signed up, but we'd love to have more. So after coffee time and donuts, feel free to join us if you have time and would like to today. Look forward to it.
Are there any other announcements?
Hi, everybody. I am running a CPR certificate. I'm not teaching it, but I'm managing it. A CPR certification course here at the church on May 6th from 9 to 12. And you will learn not only the proper procedure to do CPR chest compressions, but also how to use the AED machine, the proper way to do the Heimlich maneuver. And this includes doing it for not only adults, but also children and babies. And it's being taught by Debbie Kampf, who is a pediatric nurse. And so you want to talk to me. It's going to be in the newsletter with my phone number and email and stuff. But if you want to sign up, we can only take 16 because we only have 8 dummies. That's 2 people to a dummy. So make sure you let me know if you want to do it. It's May 6th, and I'm Val Davis. Thanks.
And now John will lead us in the reading.
I'm going to share today a short story from the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous, the native peoples of this land. Long ago, birds, trees, animals, and people knew each other's languages and all could talk together. In those days, the trees of the forest grew very large and strong, And at last, they came to know their strength too well. They became selfish and proud and disagreeable. Each tree boasted that he was the biggest and the strongest. Each one struggled to gain for himself the most earth, the best air, the brightest sun. No tree had a thought for the other. One day, the trunk of a great maple tree tried to crowd out an ash tree. The ash, of course, thought he had as much right to stand there as the maple and said he would not move a limb. "Get out of my way," said the maple. "I am greater than you and of more use to people, for I provide sweet water for them to drink." "Indeed, I will not," said the ash. "I am greater than you and of more use to people because I provide the tough wood from which people make their bows." At this, the trees started wrestling. Back and forth, in and out they swayed, each trying to throw down the other. They forgot that they were brothers in the wood. The maple threw his huge trunk against the ash, who sent the maple back with a great push of his strong elbow. For a time, the south wind watched them writhe and twist and try to throw each other to the ground. Then the south wind said softly, "You, maple, do not cause the sweet water to flow. Nor do you, the ash, make your wood to grow pliant and tough for their bows." "Who does then?" the two trees asked defiantly. "Listen," said the south wind, "and you will hear." Then the maple and the ash stopped their struggle. They bent their heads so low and close to listen that an arm of the maple slipped through an arm of the ash. And as they stood there listening, each locked arm in arm with the other, the south wind gently swayed them to and fro. Then a voice was heard singing, the mother of all things." Thus it was that the ash and the maple learned that it was Mother Earth who gave them their life, who gave them their power and their strength, and that they were brothers because they had one mother. The ash and the maple whispered this secret to the birds. The birds came and listened and went and told the animals. The animals came and then went and told the people. And thus all of the earth children learned that there is one great mother of every living thing, and that all are siblings. And now, whenever two trees lock arms lovingly, and the south wind sways them to and fro, that same voice can be heard singing, the mother of all things.
Now please join me in singing Spirit of Life. We're going to have a video. Okay. Now it's time for our story for children of all ages. So if the children would like, they can come up to the front row. And today we've got a story called The Brave Little Parrot.
The Brave Little Parrot. Once a little parrot lived in a green forest. One day, dark clouds gathered. Lightning flashed. Thunder crashed. And a dead tree struck by lightning burst into flames. The wind began to blow, and soon bright sparks were leaping from tree to tree. "Fire!" called the little parrot, smelling the smoke. "Fire! Run! Run to the river!" Then, flapping her wings, she flew swiftly toward the safety of the river's shore. After all, she was a bird and could fly away. But as she flew, she saw below her many of the forest's great trees wreathed in flames. She saw that many animals were trapped by the fire, with no way to escape. Suddenly, a desperate idea, a way to save them, came to her. Darting to the river, she called to the animals already gathered safely there. "Elephants, please, fill your trunks with water to spray on the flames. The rest of us can dip our bodies in the river. We can carry water in cupped leaves, too. Let's work together to save the forest and our friends." But the animals huddling on the shore moaned. "There's nothing anyone can do now, little parrot. It's too late." "It's true," coughed the cheetah. "Fast as I am, the flames are faster." "And powerful as we are," trumpeted the elephants, "we can't charge through flames." "It's hopeless," the animals agreed. But the little parrot saw a way. After soaking her feathers in the cool water and filling a cupped leaf, she flew back over the burning forest. Flames leaped at her. Fierce heat struck and thick smoke coiled. Walls of fire shot up, now on one side, now on the other. But twisting and turning through the mad maze of fire, the little parrot flew bravely on. At last, over the heart of the burning forest, the little parrot shook her wings. The few drops of water that still clung to her feathers tumbled like jewels down into the flames. She poured the water from her leaf cup. The drops vanished instantly with a hiss. Then the little parrot flew back to the river. Once more she dipped her body and wings in the cool water and filled another leaf cup. "Stay with us, little parrot," pleaded the gentle deer. "Don't go back into the fire." "Yes, stay," roared the mighty tiger. "A few drops of water can't save a burning forest." "It's too late," cried all the animals. "Be safe here with us." "But it might just be possible," panted the little parrot. "So I'll try." And once again she flew over the burning forest, shook her wings, and let those few glittering drops of water fall. Back and forth the little parrot flew, from river to the forest, from the forest to the river. Her eyes burned red as coals. Her feathers were charred. Her claws cracked. She coughed and choked, but still the little parrot flew on. Now at this time, some carefree goddesses and gods happened to drift by high overhead. They were laughing and talking in their palace of sunlit clouds. They were eating honeyed foods and sipping sweet wines. One of the gods happened to notice the little parrot flying far below. "Look," he called, "just look at that foolish bird trying to put out a forest fire with a few sprinkles of water." "Ridiculous," snorted one. "Impossible," laughed another. Can't she see it won't work?" exclaimed the first god. And putting down his golden bowl and silver cup, the god took the shape of a golden eagle. Flapping his broad wings once, twice, 3 times, he dove down, down, down toward the little parrot. As the little parrot again flew towards the forest's fiery heart, the eagle appeared by her side. "Go back, little bird," he said in a majestic voice. "A few drops of water can't save a forest. Stop now and save yourself before it is too late." But the little parrot didn't turn back. "Great eagle," she coughed, "time is running out, so I don't need advice. I just need help." And on she flew. The great eagle was amazed. For each instant the heat grew fiercer. He flapped his wings and rose up, up into the cooler air high above. Far below him now he saw the little parrot flying bravely on. Just above him the other gods and goddesses were laughing and talking, eating and drinking as the forest burned. Then, for the first time in all his endless life, that god felt ashamed. "We are gods after all," he exclaimed. "We should do something." And all at once the great eagle began to weep. Tears fell from his eyes, fell in torrents, sheet after sheet, like cooling rain, upon the fire, upon the forest, upon the animals, and upon the little parrot. And what was this? Wherever those tears fell, the flames went out. Glistening tears dripped from burned branches and soaked into scorched earth. The forest became quiet and still. Then, wherever those tears touched, new life burst forth. Green grass pushed up among still glowing cinders. Blossoms opened. Leaves unfurled. New feathers now grew on the little parrot, too. Feathers red as flame, green as leaves, yellow as sunlight, and blue as a river. Such perfect colors. Such a pretty bird. "The fire is out," called the little parrot in her joy. "Look, the danger is past." The animals looked at one another in amazement. Washed by those tears, they were whole and well again. Not one was harmed. "Hooray!" cried the animals. "Hooray for the brave little parrot and the miraculous rain." Overhead, in the clear blue sky, their friend the little parrot was looping and soaring in delight. She had done all she could, and somehow it had saved them.
And now John Snodgrass will deliver his message entitled, "Thanks to the Maple."
Elizabeth and I have a lot in common, which is a relief because I didn't know her that well when I proposed. We had never been on a date or spoken on the phone or kissed. She was my older sister's friend. We had been introduced a few times, and each time I thought, yep, that's the girl I'm going to marry. But neither of us was available. So when I heard that she was single, I hopped a train, left a trailer in the Virginia forest, showed up at her Manhattan apartment, and said, "I think we should have children together." And her eyes got real wide because this was her friend's little brother. And she said, "You mean get married?" And I said, "Well, of course, get married." And she said, "Yes. And this weekend, we are celebrating our 17th wedding anniversary." I sometimes think of it as an arranged marriage, like God or love goddesses or ancestral ghosts set this up. And that's good because statistically, arranged marriages tend to last longer than the ones people pick for themselves. So we became engaged and then got romantically involved, and then it was a pleasant surprise to find that we have a lot in common. But there are a few areas where we cannot find common ground, and one of them is pancake syrup. She prefers maple, the watery, flowing, real thing, while I prefer fake butter-flavored slime. She likes the glass bottle shaped like a moonshine jug. I like the squeeze bottle shaped like Mrs. Butterworth. Elizabeth can't believe it. How can I be so scholarly in my choice of reading and so hillbilly in my choice of pancake syrup? She reminds me that it's not even made of maple, it's corn syrup. And I remind her that corn sugar is just as natural as tree sap. Corn and maple have a long history here in Western New York. The indigenous cultures, the Haudenosaunee, whom some of us know as the Iroquois, lived mostly on corn they farmed, and it was often sweetened with maple sugar. In some indigenous American cultures, trees are known as the standing peoples, citizens in the community of life. In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer wrote, "Trees constitute the Environmental Quality Committee, running air and water purification service 24/7. They create habitat for songbirds and wildlife cover, golden leaves to shuffle through, tree forts and branches for swings. Centuries of their falling leaves have built the soil. And how much of the oxygen in our valley comes from our maples? How much carbon is taken from the atmosphere and stored away?" Some historians say that the maple tree played a vital role in an ancient Haudenosaunee exodus movement. Centuries ago, long before Europeans arrived in the Americas, the ancestors of the Iroquois migrated from the meeting place of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers, migrated into the eastern woodlands. But the refugees found themselves overpowered and oppressed by a cruel tribe whom they called the Adirondacks, a Mohawk word meaning the bark eaters. This epithet comes from their habit of eating dried tree bark flavored with the oil of slaughtered animals and sometimes people. These cannibals forced the immigrants to serve them until a group of women devised a plan of escape, throwing hot maple sap in the faces of their captors. They fled and found safety in the Genesee Valley. Mohawk activist Dan Longboat said, "The earth has many families of trees who have their own instructions and uses. Our Creator has made all things with a purpose, a duty, and a responsibility, and few things carry their responsibility with as much grace and beauty as the trees." The maple is said to be the leader of the standing peoples of the forest. This is because, like a good leader, it is the first to show generosity. In a story told by Mohawk elder Tom Porter, the Creator said, "Once the snow starts to melt, the maple tree is the first one that's going to wake up. Its blood is going to start to flow, and you can cook it, that sap, and it turns into a sweet syrup. You can even make sugar out of it. And then throughout the year, you will use that sweetness of the maple to put in other food, to make it nice and sweet and good." As the bare forest trees sleep through winter, the maple must awaken early so that its buds can sprout new leafy branches to soak up the summer sunlight. So the maple buds huddle, poised to spring into action. And just around this time of year, their light sensors pick up the first signs of lengthening days. They send urgent messages to the roots, which have been storing starch. It's time to shrink those starch particles into sugar, liquefy it, and send it up the trunk's long veins to feed new growth at the top. The tree makes a lot of this sugar water, enough to share with other inhabitants of the forest. Some say that people learned about maple sugar from watching squirrels. As the long New York winter wears on, and the supply of stored acorns runs low, squirrels will begin to gnaw on maple bark and drink the sap that flows from it. Returning the next day, a diligent squirrel will find a sugar crystal has formed, and they'll nibble at that for sustenance. The people of this area took this a step further. Sap gatherers would cut a shallow slit into the trunk of the tree, about 3 feet from the ground, and insert a reed or bark funnel to guide the flow of liquid into a barrel. These barrels or buckets were often a hollowed section of a tree, and these buckets of raw sap could be poured into long, sled-like troughs, also made from hollowed trees. Then the thin liquid had to be distilled and concentrated. So in the nights, it was left to freeze, the water rising from the top, while the sugar condensed below. In the morning, a sheet of ice could be removed from the top, and then in daylight, more water could be removed by boiling. This was done by heating stones in a fire, ladling them into the trough, and heating the syrup to evaporate liquid. It was a lengthy process. Processing 40 gallons of sap into a single gallon of concentrated syrup. But it wasn't constant work. It allowed plenty of time for conversation and storytelling. Finally, the dense concoction could be shaped into puck-like discs or pounded into sugar for storage in birch bark wallets. And this would become the sugar supply for the full year ahead. When the maple begins its upward growth process, the bark absorbs solar heat to help move the sugars upward from the roots to the top. And this warmth will melt a ring in the snow around the trunk. This is the sign that the sugar season has begun. In Haudenosaunee belief, the sweetness ascending from the ground upward through this tree is a sign from the Creator that the covenant with humanity has been renewed. So villagers will gather in a circle around a large maple and give thanks to it by burning incense and tobacco. Just as the sugar rises from underground to the surface, the fragrant smoke will rise from the earth to the sky, and a faith keeper will offer a thanksgiving song carried on this fragrance, a song to the tree and a song to the Creator. Then a campsite would be established, which might be occupied for several weeks as the trees were tapped and the sap condensed. Returning from the sugar camp to the village in early spring for corn planting, the villagers would bring not only sugar, but also medicines. Maple leaves and bark could be boiled into a tea to ease liver and spleen discomfort. Maple tonics could be used to stabilize blood flow and clear blockages from vital organs. The sugar could be melted in water to make cough syrup or to soothe an upset stomach. We can forget that sweetness is medicinal. We today have access to so much processed and synthesized sugar that we don't necessarily think of it as medicine. We might even think of it as the opposite, since the amount of sugar we consume can become very dangerous. But the reason we love sweet foods is that they make us feel happier and more energetic. Children instinctively love candy. It's just once they've had it, they can't understand why we would eat anything else. We as adults, many of us, continue to use treats medicinally. Maybe if our sweetness came from a relationship with a tree instead of from a grocery store, we could appreciate it as spiritual medicine instead of a guilty pleasure. The maple is the leader of the trees because it is the most generous. It may be hard for us to imagine a tree as a role model because humans and plants are so different. The tree reaches deep into the ground and long into the past, high into the sky with a lengthy future ahead, while humans have a short time to live and share our stories. And yet, both are capable of strong resolve and quiet dignity. As Oneida educator Pam Colorado wrote, there is a lot we can learn from the standing peoples of the forest. The tree collects, stores, and exchanges energy. It breathes with the winds, which tumble and churn through greenery, exquisitely fashioned to purify, codify, and imprint life in successive concentric rings, the generations. She said, we can observe the tree to emulate, complement, and understand our relationship to this beautiful, life-enhancing process. Passing maple trees on my drive here today, I got to thinking, a sugar maple can live 400 years. So some little helicopter seed that danced on the wind and touched down in 1623 could have grown into a tree, provided sugar for the indigenous peoples, witnessed the first English settlements, and it could still be there today, providing essential services, removing carbon from the air, holding the soil together, and providing sweet sap from maple sugar and syrup. We, the people in this room, might not have 400 years ahead of us. But in the time that we do have, we can work to hold steady, provide some stability and continuity, leave the campsite a little cleaner than we found it, and share sweetness with each other. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for that message. And please join me in reading the extinguishing the chalice on your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
bright side.